Yes, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? This your boy Warzone Jones. I am back. It's been a while, but I am back, and I want to talk about Bill Goldberg. And I remember as a kid liking Bill Goldberg. He was one of the few things that I did like about WCW. Bill Goldberg impressed the hell out of me so many times. You know why? Because he could literally walk into a ring and just basically beat a guy within 30 seconds, 2 minutes. His matches lasted really about 2 to 3 minutes at most. So, and that's not counting the entrances. Bill Goldberg destroyed guys quickly, and he speared the hell out of the guys. Matter of fact, Bill Goldberg's spear is still the greatest spear, I think, in the history of pro wrestling, because Bill Goldberg runs through guys and then he lands on top of you. And Bill Goldberg, he's no small. He's no small guy. He's not a featherweight. He's not a cruiserweight. Bill Goldberg is one heavy SOB. I think he's like maybe 6'5", 270 pounds or more, maybe. Bill Goldberg is a big guy. I think he's the first guy who I've ever really seen do the spear. But Bill Goldberg came off as this unstoppable, force. And, Bill Goldberg, to me, I want to say Bill Goldberg was forced down people's throats like how John Cena was. No, people accepted Bill Goldberg. They liked his little invincibility presence that he had. They liked the fact that he can actually defeat guys within 2 to 3 minutes. They cheered him, and, they chanted his name like crazy. It was really, really cool to cheer for Bill Goldberg. So Bill Goldberg came off really, really cool. Now, I was also one of those people who would look at Bill Goldberg and say, okay, well, this guy looks like Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's bald, and he's wearing black tights, which is what Steve Austin did. That's Steve Austin look. A bald guy with black tights who acts like a badass. Excuse me. I remember how some people would say that Bill Goldberg is basically a ripoff of Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's not. Even though they look similar, but their characters, they're not really the same. No matter of fact, they're not even really close. If you want to talk about coming across as a badass, that's about it. But matter of fact, some people, Bill Goldberg and Steve Austin said, in the Stone Cold's podcast, they had said that they would sometimes be walking through airports and people would confuse them with each other. So Stone Cold said that people would confuse him with Bill Goldberg. And Goldberg said that people would confuse him with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And he had to tell him, no, that's not me. But, Bill Goldberg, his contributions to pro wrestling might just be underrated. Literally underrated. Not really talked about as much because Bill Goldberg really was in the business, I think maybe like 5 years about 5 years, at least in mainstream pro wrestling. I know he did a couple of wrestling matches I think in Japan. But so Bill Goldberg was built simple. A guy who was invincible, unstoppable, will walk into the ring, pin you, and within 2 or 3 minutes, it was a squash match. They built him up by basically having him face basically a bunch of wrestlers who wasn't really the main eventers. It was squash matches, all of them. He squashed them all, squashed everybody easily. I am coughing a little bit. Let me get I am feeling a little pressure there. Bill Goldberg, back to Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg, man, he won over 100 matches. Like here's the guy who's probably the only person who can get away with this crap. Like, you think about it, how the hell does a man have 170 matches and be undefeated? How 1 week he was 20-0, and then the next week he was 50-0, and the next week he was 80-0. And so I remember when I watched that and I heard that, I believed it, because Bill Goldberg was beating guys quickly, and he was coming across as unstoppable. So as a kid, as a 10-year-old kid or 11, however old I was watching him, it was all too easy for me to believe that, because they did a real good job building him up that way. Eventually, Bill Goldberg was wrestling more accomplished wrestlers like William Regal, and that was William Regal say, okay, go out there, have a 6-minute competitive match. And according to Bill Goldberg, he said that William Regal tried to make him look bad on purpose. But William Regal says, well, hey, look, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, but Bill Goldberg isn't doing anything. That's what he was basically saying. He said Bill Goldberg wasn't doing anything, like he didn't really have nothing for him. And if you watch the wrestling match, you could tell that there was a lack of chemistry there. If you watch the match between Bill Goldberg and William Regal, I think he was Steven Regal at the time, you could tell there was a lack of chemistry. So go ahead and watch that match. Maybe you can see what I saw, because there was clearly a lack of communication and a lack of chemistry. And the match was sloppy. It was just basically a sloppy 6 minute wrestling match. That's the problem. It was just too sloppy, but I think it was sloppy, like I said, for a lack of chemistry. So Bill Goldberg eventually, he's becoming a bigger star. He's spearing guys. He's jackhammering them. He's winning United States championships. Eventually, it gets to the point where they had to make him the world champion. Because, his character was just too hot. His character was just too damn hot. People saw that. Hulk Hogan, of all people, clearly saw that. And this is one of the probably rare opportunities where Hulk Hogan dropped his ego and just said, hey, listen, man, I'm going to lose to you. I'm going to make you the man. And that's what Hulk Hogan did. He made him the man. Bill Goldberg wins the WCW championship in the Georgia Dome, if I'm not mistaken. It was one of those football stadiums. Tony Schiavone said that was the closest thing they ever had to a WrestleMania. And so at some point through Bill Goldberg's career, he's the man, and they decide to end his streak. He wrestles Kevin Nash at Starrcade, and Kevin Nash is the guy who ends Bill Goldberg's streak. Now, they said this is where they dropped the ball completely. They say this is where they dropped the ball, and they probably did. Bill Goldberg was like their guy. He was their guy. He was the guy, the face of the company, the guy who was selling the most tickets, the guy who people was paying to see. Trust me on that. So Bill Goldberg loses. Kevin Nash comes out, tasers him. A lot of them say, okay, well, it was stupid. They shouldn't have tasered Bill Goldberg. But, your bad guys got to cheat. So that was probably the only thing they could think of, I guess, at the time, for him to get tasered by Scott Hall, and then gets jackknifed gets jackknife powerbomb, and then gets pinned 1, 2, 3. Now, the problem with this is he never really recovered from this loss. He never came back as strong. Remember, they said that he hurt his arm. They said that Bill Goldberg hurt his arm because, he was punching through the limo with his fist, and he tore some tendons and almost lost his arm. So he almost had to get his arm cut off. So he got lucky. So he never really bounced back from it. And at this point, when he did come back from that injury, WCW was absolute utter crap. Around 2000, WCW had it, man. Like, they couldn't fuck with the WWE, period, point blank. Like, around 2000, they couldn't fuck with the WWE, period, and point blank. Those 2000, those year 2000 Raw Nitros were just crap. Them Nitros in the year 2000 were crap. I can tell because when I watched some Nitros in the year 2000, and like on the YouTube, or if I watch them like on stream somewhere, it's not as good, basically what I'm trying to say. It's not as good as like 99, 98, 97. It's not as good as those Nitros. It's boring. It's just flat out boring. And around this time, I think Vince Russo was the head of their creative team, and we all know Vince Russo's reputation when it comes to creative in WCW, so I'm not even going to get into that. But Bill Goldberg, despite the fact what you may think about him, whether you like him or not, Bill Goldberg, I feel, was one of the biggest superstars in the history of the pro wrestling business because he sold a hell of a lot of tickets. Bill Goldberg career might just be underrated. It might just be underrated. So, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel. I'm out. Deuces, more videos to come, I guarantee. Peace.